We all love Illumination, right? Gru, the Minions, the Grinch. Well, what if I told you there's something they could do to make their films more approachable to us, and not just little kids? I've talked about Disney a lot on this channel, but today I want to turn my attention to Illumination and their films. Have you ever realized that every film that has come from them, kids borderline 7 and below would most likely be interested in? I mean, sure, Disney themselves carry a lot of animation films, as we all know, but they are able to do it in a way that they have a broader audience. And Illumination, well, they don't seem to care too much. Much like the trend of Frozen, Let It Go, that song played over and over in people's heads for many, many years after the film's release in 2013. Minions, on the other hand, was introduced to us in 2010, and since then there has been no shortage of new content when it comes to these little yellow walking half bananas. I almost wanted to compare it to Disney's doing a cash grab, considering it's been over 10 years and they are still dragging out the character with multiple storylines. Obviously it hasn't happened yet, but people will get tired of these characters and want some type of other film. Some have even compared them to the Ice Age squirrel. Now technically that would be a compliment. They are overusing this character. It took Pixar almost 20 years to make 3 Toy Stories. Dreamworks made 4 Shreks and 4 Ice Ages in half that time. They have made other films like The Grinch and Hop and the Lorax, which yes, we will get into more later, but I wanted to focus on the Minions for now. With every other film they release, which isn't a lot, the Minions is always there in the intro. In other films and promotional social media posts, stickers, just seems like they rely on the one certain character more than anything. This will not last forever. When will it end? Well, it'll be up to the audience to tell them when enough is enough. And speaking of their audience, have you ever thought about who their audience really is? It's important that when a film is created, you know who you want to be viewing your work. They make simple movies. They appeal to a very small audience, age-wise between 4 and 10. Almost any other, and you find people calling the characters annoying like the Minions or clueless. Disney is also known for making a lot of animated films that appeal to kids, but they form the story in a way that it reaches an older audience that applauds it for the character, their growth, and following them on their journey. With any story, it's important to do this, but with Minions, there isn't a heartfelt story. Now we have to talk about their worst performing film to date, and that is Hop. Even with a 4.0 overall rating, there was still predictability, and the plot was just all over the place. Yes, they are targeted at children, however the story still has to make sense. CGI animation of the film was made by Los Angeles-based Rhythm and Hue Studios, which was also responsible for Babe and Life of Pi. Overall, the animation was spot on and realistic, but the story and the main character himself, EB, just threw off a lot of people. Then we have the Lorax, scoring a little bit better, but what was the problem with this film, you might ask? Well, the catchy songs seemed to be too cheesy and the random montages seemed to be too random. Of course, this coming from Dr. Seuss, you can't go wrong with the Dr. Seuss story, but some people believe that the story is being used and abused. Its execution lacks a great deal of finesse and too often opts for methods that cheapen the overall didactic in favor of Hollywood thrills, one critic said. Animation is spot on, of course, however the execution isn't quite right. That being the story comes from Dr. Seuss didn't really get fleshed out as it should have. The main message in Dr. Seuss's version was, respect for the environment and all living creatures will help us preserve the planet for ourselves and future generations. Yes, this film portrayed the lesson correctly, but the story was a little bit all over the place. In terms of what they have next on their plate, of course, the very predictable Despicable Me 4 coming in the end of 2024, Migration by the end of this year, and last but not least, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which I predict will be the only successful film that they have in a long time, and will attract more and new audiences to the company. However, they more than likely could be disappointed by their other movie choices. So that's my take on all this and the Illumination company and what they did wrong and right. But I'm really wondering what you think about all this and what your take on Illumination is. If they should broaden their horizon and expand on their audience with different kinds of films, or at the very least implementing something into their films that would appeal to an older audience.